6 months after the Battle of Proxima, Ambassador Chang Ho stood before the Galactic Council for the first time. The massive chamber held representatives from over 300 species, but the atmosphere was tense with uncertainty. Everything had changed since humanity's arrival. The Villani delegates sat in their traditional seats, but they looked uncomfortable. Ambassador Thelmos kept glancing at the human section with an expression that mixed gratitude with fear. They had gotten their wish. The Krovic Empire was finished. But the cure had proven more dramatic than the disease. The Council recognizes the representative from Earth, announced Speaker Velkash, an elderly alien whose species had maintained neutrality for centuries. Chang Ho rose from his seat with the calm confidence that had become humanity's trademark in galactic affairs. He was a small man by human standards, but his presence filled the chamber. Honored delegates, he began. 6 months ago, the Villani Confederation asked Earth to join their fight against the Krovic Empire. We agreed, believing that all civilized beings deserve the right to live in peace. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably, remembering how the primitive humans had systematically destroyed the most powerful military force in galactic history. The war is over, Chang Ho continued. Krovic military forces have surrendered or been destroyed. Their leadership is in custody, awaiting trial for crimes against civilian populations. Former Krovic territories are now under provisional human administration. This announcement caused an uproar. Representative Zilvek of the Mantari coalition stood up angrily. Under what authority do humans claim administrative rights over conquered territory? Chang Ho's smile was polite but cold. Under the authority of superior firepower, Delegate Zilvek. We conquered those territories through military action. They are ours by right of victory. That's barbaric, another delegate protested. Civilized species don't claim territory through conquest. Civilized species also don't stand by while genocidal empires murder billions of innocent beings. Chang Ho replied calmly. We did what you couldn't or wouldn't do. We stopped the killing. In the former Krovic territories, Governor Mi Young was implementing human administrative systems with ruthless efficiency. Her headquarters on the planet Kelvar Prime overlooked the capital city that had been rebuilt in the 6 months since liberation. Status report, she requested from her staff. Colonel Wu Jin, now serving as security chief, consulted his datapad. Civil unrest is down 90% from last month. Food distribution is ahead of schedule. Infrastructure repairs are proceeding on time and under budget. What about the former Krovic military personnel? Those willing to work are being integrated into planetary security forces, Wu Jin reported. Those who refuse are being relocated to designated areas where they can't cause trouble. Mi Young nodded approvingly. Human administration was nothing like the brutal Krovic system or the inefficient Villani bureaucracy. It was practical, fair, and absolutely uncompromising about results. Ma'am, her communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a priority message from Earth. They want a full report on economic integration progress. Mi Young smiled. Earth wasn't just conquering territory. They were transforming it. Human technology, human methods, and human expectations were reshaping worlds that had been stagnant for centuries under alien rule. The economic changes were perhaps the most dramatic. Human trade practices, developed through millennia of competition and innovation, were revolutionizing galactic commerce. Captain Nara, now commanding the merchant vessel Prosperity, watched. Alien dock workers load her cargo hold with products that didn't exist 6 months ago. Human manufacturing techniques had increased productivity on liberated worlds by factors that amazed local populations. Sir? Her trading partner, a nervous Villani merchant named Kolmus, approached with his datapad. The profit margins on these goods, they seem impossible. How do humans produce so efficiently? Nara laughed. Competition, Kolmus. On Earth, businesses that can't compete efficiently go bankrupt. Only the best survive. That drives constant innovation. But that seems so harsh. It's effective, Nara replied. Look around. Your people have more food, better housing, and improved medical care than they've had in generations. That's what happens when you optimize for results instead of avoiding hurt feelings. The truth was even more dramatic than the aliens realized. Human economic systems weren't just more efficient, they were fundamentally different. While other species had developed stable, peaceful economies, humans had created dynamic systems that treated change as opportunity rather than threat. Back on Earth, Admiral Sujin was briefing the Global Defense Council on humanity's expanding influence. The holographic display showed star maps with human-controlled territory highlighted in blue. Current status, she reported to the assembled leaders. We directly control 47 star systems, with protectorate agreements covering another 31. Trade relationships have been established with over 200 species. What about resistance? Asked General Taemin. Minimal and decreasing, Sujin replied. Most species have decided that cooperation with humanity is preferable to the alternatives. Our protection is absolute. Our trade terms are fair, and we don't interfere with local customs as long as they don't threaten human interests. Defense Minister Jin Woo studied the display thoughtfully. What about the Villani? They seem uncomfortable with our expansion. The Villani are learning that gratitude has limits, Sujin said. They wanted us to save them from the Krovik, then disappear politely. Instead, we've become the dominant power in their region of space. The irony was perfect. The Villani had sought allies to preserve their peaceful way of life. Instead, they had awakened a species that viewed the entire galaxy as either an opportunity or a threat to be managed. Ambassador Thelmos was discovering this reality during his private meeting with Chang Ho after the council session. Your people have exceeded all expectations, Thelmos said carefully. But some of our leaders are concerned about human expansion. Chang Ho poured tea for both of them, a gesture that somehow managed to be both polite and threatening. What concerns them, Ambassador? The rate of change. The scale of your operations. The efficiency with which you've assumed control over former Krovik territories. Would you prefer that we had left those worlds in chaos? Chang Ho asked. Millions of beings were enslaved under Krovik rule. Now they're free, prosperous, and protected. Isn't that what your people wanted? Thelmos struggled to find the right words. Of course, but we hoped, we expected that humanity would be a junior partner in our confederation. Chang Ho's laughter was genuinely amused. Ambassador, no species that can destroy the Krovik Empire in 6 months serves as anyone's junior partner. We're not your subordinates or your equals. We're your protectors, and that comes with responsibilities and privileges. The conversation ended with Thelmos understanding a truth that was spreading through the galaxy. Humanity hadn't joined galactic civilization as participants. They had joined as management. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Dae Ho received reports from the expanding frontier. Human scout fleets were exploring regions of space that other species had never dared to visit. They were making contact with new civilizations, establishing trade routes and quietly evaluating potential threats. Sir, Lieutenant Hai Wan reported, long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity beyond the galactic rim. Something large is moving in our direction. Dae Ho studied the preliminary data with interest rather than concern. Analysis? Unknown at this time, sir. The energy signatures don't match anything in our database. Estimated arrival in human space. 18 months. Signal Earth Command, Dae Ho decided. Begin preparations for first contact protocols and activate the deep space monitoring networks. Hai Wan nodded, understanding the implications. Whatever was coming from beyond the galaxy would encounter humanity at the height of its power. The species that had destroyed the Krovik Empire and reshaped galactic civilization was ready for new challenges. The final irony was that humanity had become exactly what the galaxy needed, even if it wasn't what anyone had wanted. The Villani had sought protectors and received conquerors who protected them more effectively than they had ever protected themselves. The Krovik had faced enemies and met destroyers who eliminated them with surgical precision. Other species had watched the changes and learned that cooperation with humans was both profitable and safe. As Chang Ho prepared for the next Galactic Council session, he reflected on how completely the situation had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had been the unknown species offering limited assistance to desperate allies. Now they were the power that other civilizations had to convince, appease, or at least avoid antagonizing. The Deathworlders had arrived in galactic civilization, and they had no intention of leaving. They had found their place among the stars, and that place was at the top of the hierarchy they had created through superior force and superior competence. The galaxy was learning to live under humanity's protection, and for the first time in centuries, it was truly safe. Whether the aliens liked it or not, the age of human dominance had begun, and it showed no signs of ending. In the depths of space beyond the reach of any civilization, ancient signals stirred. Emperor Vector stood before the massive display screen in his throne room, watching reports from across his crumbling empire. The massive Krovic ruler was 12 feet tall, with scars covering his armored hide from 1,000 battles. But for the first time in his life, he felt something approaching fear. "Show me the latest casualty reports," he commanded his advisors. The numbers were devastating. 17 major fleets destroyed or crippled, 43 worlds under human occupation, supply lines disrupted across half the empire, and still, no one understood how the humans were doing it. "How many ships do these creatures have?" Vector demanded. His intelligence chief, a nervous alien named Kolesh, consulted his datapad with trembling claws. "Our best estimates suggest at least 500 major warships, Excellency, possibly more." "Impossible," Vector roared. "Their planet showed only primitive space capabilities. Where are these fleets coming from?" "We believe they were hidden, Excellency. Deep space bases, underground facilities, ships disguised as civilian craft. The humans appear to have been preparing for galactic war long before they made contact with other species." The Emperor's advisors exchanged worried glances. None of them wanted to voice the obvious question. If the humans had been planning for war, why had they bothered with the alliance at all? The answer came from General Thakvar, the Empire's most experienced military commander. "They needed intelligence, Excellency. The Alliance gave them detailed information about our weapons, tactics, and fleet positions. They've been using our own strategic data against us." Vector's rage was terrible to behold. "Summon the Grand Fleet. Every ship, every warrior, every weapon we have, we end this now." "Excellency," Kolesh said carefully, "that would leave our core worlds undefended." "There will be no core worlds if we don't stop the humans," the Emperor replied. "Send the order." Within days, the largest military force in galactic history began gathering at the Proxima Assembly Point. 12,000 Krovic warships, representing centuries of conquest and expansion. The pride of the Empire, commanded by the Emperor himself. The sea. Target was humanity's main staging area at Proxima Station, a massive orbital facility that the humans had constructed in what used to be empty space. Destroying it would cripple the human war effort and demonstrate that the Krovic Empire would not be defeated by primitives from a backwater world. Commander Kyungsu watched the approaching enemy fleet from the bridge of Proxima Station. The human facility looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space, with defensive platforms arranged in complex patterns around it. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Mi-young from her sensor station, "enemy fleet composition is confirmed. 12,000 ships including 200 dreadnoughts." Kyungsu nodded calmly. "Signal the hidden fleets. Execute Operation Thunder." What the Krovic didn't know was that Proxima Station was not humanity's main base. It was bait. The real, human fleets were positioned throughout the system, waiting in places the enemy would never think to look. Admiral Chang Ho, commanding the 4th Human Fleet from his flagship Inevitable Victory, watched the enemy approach from his position behind a gas giant's rings. His ships were invisible to Krovic sensors, hidden in the electromagnetic chaos of the planet's magnetic field. "Target acquisition complete," reported his tactical officer. "All enemy dreadnoughts are marked for priority elimination." "Weapons free," Chang Ho ordered. "Show them what happens when someone threatens Earth's children." The first indication the Krovic had of their mistake was when 20 of their largest ships simply vanished. Long-range human railguns, positioned on asteroids throughout the system, fired projectiles at incredible speeds. The metal slugs punched through energy shields and armor like they weren't there. Emperor Vector watched in shock as his most powerful vessels died without firing a shot. "Where are those weapons positioned?" he demanded. "Everywhere, Excellency," his sensor operator replied with growing panic. "The entire system is weaponized. They're firing from asteroids, moons, orbital platforms, even debris fields." The humans had done something no other species had ever attempted. Instead of building a few large bases, they had turned an entire star system into a fortress. Every piece of space rock larger than a building had been equipped with weapons, sensors, or defensive systems, but the real surprise was still coming. "Sir," Lieutenant Mi Young called out from Proxima Station, "detecting massive energy signatures from the outer system. Something big is coming." Admiral Ji Hoon's second fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, followed immediately by Admiral Su Jin's first fleet from another direction. Then came the 3rd, 5th, and 7th fleets, each arriving from different vectors. The Krovik had brought 12,000 ships to fight what they thought was humanity's main force. Instead, they found themselves facing over 4,000 human warships supported by the most sophisticated defensive network ever constructed. Emperor Vector realized the terrible truth. They knew we were coming. They've been preparing for this exact battle. He was right. Human intelligence had been monitoring Krovik communications for weeks. Every ship movement, every supply allocation, every strategic decision had been observed and analyzed. The humans knew exactly when and where the enemy would attack. More importantly, they had prepared accordingly. Captain Yoonji, now commanding the heavy cruiser Steel Wind, led her squadron in a flanking maneuver that would have been impossible for other species. Human ships could operate closer to stellar radiation, navigate through asteroid fields at high speed, and coordinate attacks across vast distances. "Multiple targets acquired," her weapons officer reported. "Firing solution locked." "Fire," Yoonji ordered. The Steel Wind and her sister ships opened fire with every weapon they carried. Nuclear missiles, railgun projectiles, energy beams borrowed from Volani technology, and experimental weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. The Krovik formation, designed for the massive fleet engagements they had always won, found itself under attack from directions that should have been impossible. Human ships appeared from behind planets, emerged from gas clouds, and materialized from sensor shadows with perfect coordination. General Thokvar, commanding the Emperor's escort fleet, tried to rally his forces. "Concentrate fire on their command. Ship, break their coordination." But identifying the human command structure was impossible. Unlike other species, humans didn't rely on a single flagship or central commander. Every ship captain was trained to operate independently, and the fleet could continue fighting even if half their officers were killed. The battle became a slaughter. Human weapon systems, designed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing, proved superior to alien technology that had never faced serious opposition. Krovik shields failed under sustained bombardment. Their armor cracked under kinetic impacts. Their weapons couldn't track targets that moved with human unpredictability. Emperor Vector watched his grand fleet dissolve around him. Ships that had conquered worlds died like insects swatted by giants. The pride of his empire became debris floating in the void. "Excellency," General Thokvar reported with a voice full of despair, "we've lost 60% of our fleet. The humans are surrounding our remaining forces." "Impossible," Vector whispered. "We brought everything, every ship, every warrior. How are they defeating us so easily?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A human communication beam reached his flagship, and Captain Deho's face appeared on the main screen. "Emperor Vector," the human said politely. "I am Captain Deho of the Terran Defense Force. I believe we need to talk." "You dare address me directly?" Vector snarled. "I am the master of 1,000 worlds." "You were the master of 1,000 worlds," Deho corrected. "Now you're the commander of a broken fleet in a system controlled by Earth. Your empire is finished." The Emperor's rage was magnificent, but it couldn't change reality. Around his flagship, the survivors of his grand fleet were surrendering or fleeing. The greatest military force in galactic history had been destroyed in a single engagement. "How?" Vector asked, his voice barely a whisper. How did you defeat us? Daeho's expression was almost sympathetic. You made the same mistake every bully makes, Emperor. You assumed that because we were smaller, we were weaker. You never considered that we might be more dangerous precisely because we were smaller. Your weapons, your tactics, they're barbaric. They're effective, Daeho replied. You conquered species that didn't understand warfare. We learned warfare by fighting each other for millions of years. Every human conflict taught us something new about killing and surviving. The communication ended as the last Krovic resistance collapsed. Emperor Vector found himself a prisoner, aboard his own flagship, watching human marines secure his vessel with casual efficiency. The Battle of Proxima was over. The Krovic Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, had been broken in a single afternoon by the species they had dismissed as primitive. But Admiral Chang Ho, reviewing the aftermath from his command ship, knew this was just the beginning. Destroying the Krovic military was only the first step in humanity's expansion into galactic civilization. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when the Deathworld Admiral Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching through the viewports as the largest human fleet ever assembled moved through space. Behind him stretched a formation that would have amazed both the Villani and terrified the Krovic, if they could have seen it. 300 warships of various sizes filled the darkness between stars. Not disguised aid vessels this time, but pure instruments of war. Battleships that could crack planets, carriers launching swarms of fighters, and support ships that could build orbital fortresses in days instead of years. Admiral, reported Captain Nara from her communications station, we're receiving updates from Captain Daeho's convoy. The Krovic are massing forces at Kelvar Prime. They want to make a statement. Ji-hoon studied the tactical display. Kelvar Prime was a major Villani colony world with over 50 million inhabitants. If it fell, the Krovic would control the main supply routes to 3 other star systems. How many enemy ships? He asked. 200 confirmed, Nara replied, possibly more hiding behind the planet's moons. And the Villani defense fleet? Evacuated 3 days ago, Captain Wu Jin reported from his tactical station. They said fighting in orbit would endanger civilians on the surface. Ji-hoon nodded. The Villani approach to warfare made sense for a peaceful species, but it guaranteed they would lose every major engagement. The Krovic could simply occupy planets and force the defenders to withdraw. Signal the 2nd Marine Division, he ordered. General Minho will get his chance to test human ground combat tactics. Colonel Wu Jin, commander of the 10th Assault Battalion, was already briefing his troops in the cavernous hangar bay of the transport ship Mountain Breaker. The soldiers looked like typical human infantry, but their equipment would have puzzled other species. Listen carefully, Wu Jin told his assembled Marines. Intelligence reports that Kelvar Prime has a toxic atmosphere. Humans need breathing apparatus, but most aliens would die within hours of exposure. A young sergeant raised her hand. Sir, won't that make things more difficult for us? Wu Jin smiled grimly. Negative, Sergeant. The Krovic are adapted for standard atmospheric conditions. The toxic environment will slow them down and require them to wear bulky protective gear. We've trained for this. He activated a holographic display showing the planet's surface. Kelvar Prime has active volcanoes, acid rain, and atmospheric pressure twice what most species consider safe. For us, it's like a mild training exercise. The Marines chuckled. They had all survived basic training on Venus and Mars, where conditions were far worse than anything they would encounter on an alien world. What about enemy ground forces? Another Marine asked. The Krovic are bigger and stronger than humans, Wu Jin admitted. But they rely on their natural armor and energy weapons. They've never faced opponents who use explosives, chemical weapons, and biological warfare. The display changed to show Krovic warriors, massive creatures with thick gray skin and natural weapons. They looked intimidating until you realized they had never fought anything that fought back effectively. Remember your training, Wu Jin continued. We don't fight fair, we don't take unnecessary risks. We use every advantage our technology and tactics give us. The enemy expects civilized warfare. Give them human warfare instead. Meanwhile, Admiral Ji-hoon was coordinating with the orbital assault platforms. Unlike other species, humans didn't just fight ship-to-ship battles in space. They brought the tools to control entire planets. Deployment status? He asked Captain So-young, commander of the orbital construction ship Forge of Titans. First ring of defense platforms will be complete in 18 hours, she reported. We'll have overlapping fields of fire covering all approaches to the planet. What about the Krovic forces already in system? They're trying to establish their own orbital positions, So-young said. But they're building for energy-based combat. Our platforms use kinetic weapons and nuclear mines. They won't know what hit them. The human approach to space warfare was fundamentally different from anything the galaxy had seen. Other species built beautiful ships and fought elegant battles. Humans built ugly, efficient weapons and fought to win. On the planet's surface, Krovic forces were establishing control over major population centers. General Vakator, the alien commander, was pleased with the operation's progress. The Villani fled without fighting, he reported to his superiors. We control all major cities and spaceports. When their relief fleet arrives, they'll have to choose between attacking us and risking civilian casualties. What General Vakator didn't know was that the relief fleet had already arrived, and they didn't operate under Villani rules of engagement. The first indication of human presence was the sudden appearance of objects falling from orbit. Krovic sensors detected them as small craft, probably escape pods from damaged ships. The alien forces ignored them as irrelevant. Those objects were actually human reconnaissance teams in stealth insertion vehicles. Within hours, small groups of human soldiers were scattered across the planet, gathering intelligence and marking targets. Sergeant Yun-ji crouched behind a rock formation, watching Krovic patrols through her enhanced optics. Her squad had been on the ground for 6 hours and they had already identified weaknesses in enemy positions. Command, this is Recon 7, she whispered into her communicator. Enemy forces are concentrated in the cities. They have minimal patrols in the wilderness areas. Copy Recon 7, came the reply. Maintain observation. Main assault begins in 12 hours. Yun-ji smiled grimly. The Krovic were about to learn why humans were the only species to weaponize everything on their planet, including the weather. In orbit, Admiral Ji-hoon watched as his fleet completed its deployment. The human ships had arranged themselves in positions that made no sense to conventional galactic tactics. Instead of forming battle lines, they had created a three-dimensional web around the planet. Enemy fleet is moving to intercept, reported Captain Nara. They're forming traditional attack formations. Let them come, Ji-hoon replied. Signal all ships. Execute Formation Omega. The human fleet suddenly scattered in all directions, leaving empty space where moments before there had been a concentrated force. The Krovic ships, committed to their attack run, found themselves firing at nothing. Then the trap closed. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids, moons, and sensor shadows. They had been waiting in positions that other species would never consider, too close to gravity wells, hidden in radiation fields, lurking in the trails of comets. The Krovic fleet found itself surrounded and under fire from directions they hadn't known were possible. Worse, the human weapons were unlike anything in their tactical database. Captain Jae-sung, commanding the experimental destroyer Widow's Bite, demonstrated the latest human innovation. His ship fired what looked like a simple missile, but as it approached the enemy formation, it broke apart into hundreds of smaller projectiles. Each submunition contained a small nuclear warhead designed to overload energy shields. The Krovic ships, expecting single large explosions they could absorb, instead faced swarms of smaller blasts that overwhelmed their defenses through sheer numbers. Impossible, General Vakator muttered as he watched his fleet dissolve under human fire. Where did they get such weapons? His tactical officer was frantically analyzing the enemy attacks. Sir, they're using strategies I've never seen. Multiple attack vectors, unpredictable weapon types, coordination patterns that shouldn't work. The answer was simple, but devastating. Humans had learned to fight by competing against each other for millions of years. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy had been tested against opponents who were just as intelligent and creative. The Krovic had conquered species who didn't understand warfare. Humans had been born from it. On the planet's surface, the second phase of the human attack began. Instead of landing in obvious locations, Human dropships descended through the planet's violent storm systems, using the natural chaos to mask their approach. Colonel Wu Jin led his Marines in a textbook example of human tactical thinking. Instead of attacking the enemy's strengths, they targeted infrastructure the Krovik hadn't bothered to defend. Power stations, communication networks, supply depots. The boring but essential targets that kept armies functioning. The Krovik had placed their warriors in cities to control populations, but they had left their logistics virtually unguarded. Phase 1 complete, Wu Jin reported as explosions lit up the night across 3 continents. Enemy forces are blind, isolated, and running low on supplies. Copy, Colonel. Admiral Ji-hoon replied from orbit. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was psychological warfare, and it was something humans understood better than any other species. Instead of announcing their presence with loud attacks, human soldiers became ghosts in the landscape. Krovik patrols vanished without trace. Supply convoys never reached their destinations. Equipment failed in ways that suggested sabotage, but no enemy was ever seen. The alien warriors bred for direct confrontation found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to meet them in open battle. It was exactly the opposite of everything they understood about warfare. General Vaktor tried to rally his forces, but fear was spreading through his ranks. "The humans fight like cowards," he roared. "They hide and strike from shy." The Krovik raiding fleet hung in space like hungry wolves waiting for prey. Captain Vecnash studied the approaching human convoy through his ship's sensors and felt disappointed. Intelligence reports had mentioned new aliens joining the Villani, but these ships looked pathetic. 12 cargo vessels, his sensor operator reported. 6 small escorts. 2 large ships that appear to be medical vessels. No significant weapons detected. Vecnash flexed his massive claws in anticipation. The Krovik warrior stood over 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin that could stop most small arms fire. His red eyes gleamed with the joy of approaching battle. "Easy. Pray," he growled to his crew. "We'll destroy the escorts first, then board the cargo ships. Any medical supplies will be useful for our own forces." The human convoy continued its approach, seemingly unaware of the 20 Krovik warships waiting. In the asteroid field ahead, to alien sensors, the human vessels looked exactly like what they claimed to be. Peaceful aid ships carrying supplies to refugee camps. Aboard the disguised battleship Peaceful Harbor, Captain Dae-ho watched the enemy positions on his tactical display. Lieutenant Haiwan sat at her communications station monitoring Krovik transmissions. "They're treating us like helpless merchants," she reported. "No respect, no caution. They plan to disable our escorts and capture our cargo." "Perfect," Dae-ho replied. "Signal the fleet. Activate combat protocols on my mark." The human ships continued their innocent approach until they reached the optimal engagement range. Then everything changed. "Mark," Dae-ho said quietly. The transformation was swift and shocking. Cargo containers on the merchant ships split open to reveal missile launchers and railgun turrets. The medical ships dropped their disguises and activated weapon systems that would have impressed any military force. The small escorts suddenly showed energy signatures of vessels 3 times their apparent size. Captain Vecnash had exactly 3 seconds to realize his mistake before the humans opened fire. The first volley came from the railgun batteries. Solid, metal projectiles, each weighing several tons, accelerated to enormous speeds by magnetic fields. The Krovik shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no protection against kinetic impacts. Vecnash watched in horror as the flagship of his escort squadron simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next moment it was an expanding cloud of debris and plasma. "Impossible," he roared. "Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our shields." His tactical officer was frantically working his console. "Sir, they're not using energy weapons. These are physical projectiles. Return fire," Vecnash ordered. The Krovik warships unleashed torrents of plasma bolts and energy beams. The attacks struck the human vessels and seemed to have no effect. The alien shields adapted from Villani technology absorbed the energy weapons completely. But the human counterattack was just beginning. Commander Yan Wu, aboard the disguised cruiser Determination, watched his missile batteries acquire targets. "Fire pattern Alpha," he ordered. Hundreds of nuclear-tipped missiles erupted from concealed launchers throughout the human fleet. Unlike the energy weapons used by other species, these missiles were completely invisible to Krovic sensors until they armed their warheads. The first atomic explosions lit up the asteroid field like miniature suns. Krovic ships caught in the blasts were vaporized instantly. Those farther away were crippled by electromagnetic pulses that overloaded their systems. Captain Vecnash felt his ship shudder as nuclear fire washed over his shields. The energy barriers held, but barely. Warning lights flashed across his bridge as systems overloaded. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, retreat immediately." But the humans weren't finished. As the surviving Krovic vessels tried to disengage, the human escorts revealed their true nature. They weren't small defensive ships. They were dedicated hunter-killers designed for exactly this kind of engagement. Lieutenant So Young, commanding the destroyer Hidden Blade, pursued the fleeing enemy ships with ruthless efficiency. Her vessel accelerated beyond anything the Krovic had thought possible, closing the distance rapidly. "Target their engines," she ordered her weapons officer. "I want prisoners for interrogation." Precisely aimed railgun shots crippled 3 Krovic vessels, leaving them dead in space. The survivors jumped to faster-than-light speed and fled toward their base carrying news of the disaster. The entire engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. Of 20 Krovic raiders, only 6 escaped. The human convoy had not lost a single ship. Captain Deho surveyed the battlefield with satisfaction. Debris from destroyed alien warships drifted through space, testament to humanity's first victory in galactic warfare. "Communications," he said to Hyawan. "Patch me through to the surviving Krovic ships." A few moments later, the battered face of Captain Vecnash appeared on the main screen. The alien warrior looked shocked and confused. "This is Captain Deho of the Terran Defense Force," the human said calmly. "You attacked peaceful aid vessels carrying medical supplies to refugee camps. This was your first mistake. Your second mistake was underestimating the people of Earth." Vecnash snarled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "What are you? Our intelligence said humans were primitive." "Your intelligence was wrong," Deho replied. "We are not primitive. We are careful. We let you see only what we wanted you to see." The alien captain struggled to understand. "Your weapons. They ignore our shields. How is this possible?" "Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons," Deho explained. "We don't use energy weapons as primary armaments. We use kinetic, projectiles, nuclear explosives, and other methods your people never considered." "Impossible," Vecnash repeated. "No civilized species uses such barbaric weapons." Deho smiled coldly. "We're not civilized by your standards. We come from what you call a deathworld. We learned to fight by surviving against predators that would eat your people for breakfast." The communication ended as the surviving Krovic ships jumped away. Captain Deho turned to his crew. "Signal the fleet, resume course for Volani space, and transmit our engagement report to Earth Command." Lieutenant Hyawan began composing the message. "Sir, what should I tell them about enemy capabilities?" "Tell them the Krovic are dangerous but predictable," Deho said. "They rely too heavily on energy shields and energy weapons. They've never fought an opponent that uses different tactics." "What about their ship construction?" "Strong but not flexible," Deho observed. "They build for overwhelming firepower, not for adaptability. Once you penetrate their defenses, they're vulnerable." As the human convoy continued toward its destination, news of the battle spread through both alien civilizations. The Krovic High Command received reports of impossible human weapons and devastating defeats. The Volani leadership heard confused stories of their new allies destroying enemy fleets with ease. Neither side fully understood what had happened, but both began to realize that humanity was not what they had expected. In the Krovic empires, military headquarters, General Thakvar studied the battle reports with growing alarm. 20 ships destroyed by a small convoy of aid vessels. Weapons that ignored shields. Tactics unlike anything in the galactic military database. "Send orders to all fleet commanders," he decided. These humans are to be considered a priority threat. We need more information about their capabilities. In the Volani Confederation's council chambers, Ambassador Thelmos tried to explain the impossible reports coming from the front lines. Our new allies defeated a major Krovic raiding fleet without losing a single ship, he told the assembled leaders. The humans claim their convoy was carrying only medical supplies. How many human ships were involved? Asked Counselor Meltara. 22. Vessels total, Thelmos replied. The same convoy we were told would carry humanitarian aid. The Volani leaders exchanged worried glances. If 22 human ships could destroy a significant Krovic force, what were these new allies really capable of? Neither alien civilization was prepared for the answer to that question. As the human fleet continued its journey through space, Captain Deho began planning for the next engagement. The Krovic would be more cautious now, but they would still underestimate humanity's full capabilities. That would be their final mistake. 3 days after the Volani delegation left Earth's orbital station, the real work began. In the hidden military bases scattered across the solar system, humans moved with purpose that would have shocked their new allies. Engineer Bora stood in the massive construction bay of Titan Base, watching as human workers swarmed over the hull of the battleship Indomitable. The ship looked peaceful enough from the outside, just another human exploration vessel. But Bora knew better. How long until the Volani shields are integrated? Asked Commander Yan Wu, the ship's tactical officer. 6 hours, Bora replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. The alien technology is actually quite elegant. Their shields work by bending energy around the ship instead of trying to stop it. And our weapons? Bora smiled. The Volani shields are designed to stop energy, weapons. They've never encountered kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. Yan Wu nodded approvingly. Human weapons didn't fire beams of light or plasma bolts like the rest of the galaxy. They fired solid metal slugs accelerated by magnetic rails or explosive charges. The alien shields might as well be made of paper. Across the construction bay, Marine Colonel Min Ho was briefing his troops on their new assignment. The men and women under his command looked like ordinary soldiers, but appearances were deceiving. These were veterans of humanity's brush wars, trained to fight in environments that would kill most aliens. Listen up, Min Ho said to the assembled Marines. Intelligence reports say Krovic warriors are bigger and stronger than humans. They have natural armor and weapons, but they've never fought anything like us. A young Marine raised her hand. Sir, what makes us different? Min Ho activated a holographic display showing various alien species. Every other race in the galaxy evolved on worlds with perfect conditions. Stable weather, abundant food, no major predators. Earth is what the galaxy calls a deathworld. The display changed to show images of Earth's harsh environments, volcanic eruptions, massive storms, predatory animals with razor-sharp teeth. We evolved to survive anything, Min Ho continued. We can fight in toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, and hostile terrain. We're persistence hunters who never give up. Most importantly, we're the only species that weaponized everything around us. Another Marine spoke up. What about their technology advantage? That's where things get interesting, Min Ho said with a grin. They have better energy sources and faster ships, but their weapons and tactics haven't changed in centuries. They've never needed to innovate because no one could fight back effectively. Meanwhile, in Earth's secret command center buried beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Su Jin was reviewing deployment orders with General Taimin and Defense Minister Jin Wu. The first response fleet launches tomorrow, Su Jin reported. 20 ships just like we promised the Volani. But they're not the exploration vessels the aliens expect. Jin Wu studied the fleet composition on his tablet. 12 heavy cruisers, disguised as cargo ships, 6 destroyers configured as science vessels, and 2 dreadnoughts masquerading as hospital ships. What about supplies? Taimin asked. That's the beautiful part, Su Jin said. We really are sending humanitarian aid, medical supplies, food, construction equipment. The Krovic will see exactly what they expect to see, until our cargo containers open up and reveal weapons platforms. The plan was elegant in its deception. Humanity had spent decades preparing for the possibility of alien contact. When they finally made contact with the Volani, every human ship in the aid convoy served dual purposes. The medical ships carried advanced surgical equipment and battlefield hospitals. They also carried enough firepower to level a city. The cargo vessels were loaded with supplies for refugee camps. They were also loaded with automated defense turrets and fighter squadrons. Captain Deho was personally overseeing the loading of his flagship, the merchant vessel Peaceful Harbor. To alien sensors, it would look like a simple transport ship. In reality, it was a mobile weapons platform with enough missiles to destroy a small fleet. "Sir," Lieutenant Haiwan approached with a data pad. "We've received updated intelligence. On Krovic patrol patterns, they're overconfident." Deho studied the information. "They're not even bothering to scout properly. They expect token resistance from Volani forces and no interference from other species. Should we change our approach route?" "No," Deho decided. "Let them intercept us exactly where they expect to. The surprise will be more complete." Elsewhere, in the solar system, humanity's true military strength was positioning itself for war. The Third Fleet, commanded by Admiral Ji-hoon, was already moving toward the outer systems. These ships made no attempt to disguise their purpose. They were pure warships, angular, aggressive designs bristling with weapons. But the Third Fleet would remain hidden until the right moment. For now, humanity needed the Krovic to underestimate their new enemy. On Mars, weapons factories that had been idle since humanity's last major conflict roared back to life. The assembly lines that once produced mining equipment now manufactured railgun projectiles and nuclear warheads. The shipyards that built exploration vessels now constructed fighters and bombers. Engineer Bo-Ra received a priority message and smiled. The first batch of hybrid vessels was ready. Human engineering combined with Volani technology had produced something neither species could have created alone. The new ships had energy shields to protect them from alien weapons, but they also had armor designed to survive kinetic impacts. They could fight at the energy ranges preferred by other species, but they could also close to knife-fighting distance where human weapons were most effective. "Status report," Admiral Sujin requested during the daily briefing. "First response fleet launches in 6 hours," reported Captain Deho. "Reinforcement fleets will be ready within 2 weeks," added Admiral Ji-hoon via secure communication from his hidden flagship. "Marine assault forces are loaded and ready," Colonel Minho confirmed. "Intelligence indicates the Krovic are preparing a major offensive against the Volani homeworld," Haiwan added. "They want to end this war quickly." Sujin nodded. "Perfect. They'll be focused on their main target when our aid convoy arrives. By the time they realize what we really are, it will be too late." The final preparations were almost complete. Human crews ran final checks on their weapon systems, Marines reviewed assault plans, and engineers made last-minute adjustments to the hybrid technologies. To the Volani Confederation, Earth was sending generous aid to desperate allies. A small fleet of peaceful vessels carrying supplies and medical personnel. To the Krovic Empire, the humans were irrelevant primitives who posed no threat to their grand plans of conquest. Both alien civilizations were about to learn that they had badly misunderstood humanity. The Krovic expected easy prey. They were going to encounter predators who had spent millions of years learning to hunt anything that moved. The Volani expected grateful junior partners. They were going to discover that they had awakened something that viewed the entire galaxy as hunting grounds. As the first human ships powered up their engines and prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Admiral Sujin made one final announcement to the assembled fleet commanders. "Remember," she said, "we're not just fighting for the Volani. We're establishing humanity's place in galactic civilization. Make sure that place is at the top." The ships launched into the darkness between stars, carrying with them the concentrated fury of a species that had never learned to surrender. The alien ship looked like a flower made of metal and light. It drifted toward Earth's orbital station with slow, careful movements. Inside the human command center, Captain Deho watched the strange vessel approach. He had seen many things, in his 20 years of military service, but never anything like this. Sir, they're requesting permission to dock, said Lieutenant Haiwan from her communications console. They say they come in peace. Deho nodded. Grant them permission, but keep our weapons ready. The alien ship attached itself to docking port 7 with gentle precision. Within an hour, 3 creatures walked through the airlock. They looked like tall, thin deer that had learned to walk on 2 legs. Their skin was pale green, and their large eyes held a sadness that made even the hardest human soldiers feel sorry for them. The leader stepped forward. When it spoke, a small device around its neck translated its words into perfect English. I am Ambassador Thelmos of the Villani Confederation. We come seeking allies in our darkest hour. Admiral Sujin arrived within minutes. She was a small woman with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her came General Taemin, a large man whose calm face hid a brilliant military mind. Welcome to our station, Ambassador, Sujin said. Please tell us why you've traveled so far to find us. Thelmos gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed a map of nearby space, with red areas spreading like a disease across star systems. The Krovic Empire grows stronger each day. They have destroyed 12 of our worlds. Our people die by the millions. The hologram changed to show burning cities and fleeing civilians. The humans watched in silence as the peaceful Villani tried to escape the advancing enemy forces. We are not warriors, Thelmos continued. We have never needed to be. Our confederation has lived in peace for over 1,000 years. But the Krovic only understand violence and conquest. General Taemin leaned forward. What exactly are you asking us to do? Join our confederation, the ambassador said. We offer you our medical technology, clean energy sources, and advanced materials. In return, we need your help. Even a few of your ships could make a difference. Admiral Sujin and General Taemin exchanged a quick look. Both had read the intelligence reports about Earth's military capabilities. The aliens clearly thought humans were primitive. How many ships do you think we have? Sujin asked carefully. Thelmos consulted a datapad. Our scouts observed perhaps 50 vessels around your planet. Small craft, mostly for exploration. We understand your people are still learning to travel between stars. Captain Deho had to work hard not to smile. Earth's actual fleet numbered in the thousands, but they kept most ships hidden in deep space or underground facilities. The aliens had only seen the peaceful research vessels that humanity wanted them to see. We appreciate your offer, Sujin said, but we need to understand the enemy better. Tell us about the Krovic. The second alien, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. I am Science Officer Veltar. The Krovic are a warrior race. They believe that only the strong deserve to live. Their ships are powerful, and they have conquered half the galaxy. What do their ships look like? General Taemin asked. Veltar activated another hologram. Massive alien warships appeared, bristling with energy weapons and protected by glowing shields. Their dreadnoughts are 5 kilometers long. Their battle cruisers can destroy a city with a single shot. They have thousands of these vessels. The humans studied the images carefully. The Krovic ships were impressive, but they relied on energy weapons and deflector shields. Human weapons worked very differently. What about their ground forces? Captain Deho asked. Terrible, Thelmos whispered. They are larger than humans, with thick armor-like skin. They feel no mercy and take no prisoners. When they land on a planet, nothing survives. Hie-Wan, who had been quietly recording everything, spoke up. Why haven't other species helped you? There are no others, Veltar said sadly. The galaxy has only 3 types of civilizations. The Villani and our allies who seek peace. The Krovic Empire who want conquest. And primitive species like yourselves who are just beginning to explore space. The insult was unintended, but several humans in the room bristled. Admiral Sujin raised a hand for silence. We need time to consider your proposal, she said. This is a big decision for our people. Of course, Thelmos agreed, but please do not take too long. Every day you delay, more of our people die. After the aliens were escorted to guest quarters, The human leadership gathered in a secure meeting room. The walls were thick enough to stop any listening devices. "Well?" Sujin asked. General Tai Min spoke first. "They have no idea what we're capable of. They think we're barely space-worthy." "That could work to our advantage," Captain Daeho said. "The Krovik will underestimate us too." Defense Minister Jin Woo, who had been silent during the meeting with the aliens, finally spoke. "The real question is whether we want to get involved in a galactic war." "The war will come to us eventually," Sujin said. "The Krovik won't stop. With the Villani, if we help now, we choose the time and place of battle." Haiwan pulled up classified files on her tablet. "Our deep space monitoring stations have been tracking Krovik expansion for months. They're moving in our direction." "Then, we accept the alliance," Taemin decided, "but we don't show our full strength yet. Let them think we're sending everything we have." The next morning, Admiral Sujin met with Ambassador Thelmos in the station's diplomatic suite. The alien looked hopeful, but tired. "We accept your proposal," Sujin announced. "Earth will join your confederation and help fight the Krovik Empire." Thelmos nearly collapsed with relief. "Thank you. Your few ships will make a difference, I promise." "We'll send our first fleet within the week," Sujin said. 20 ships to start, with more to follow." The ambassador was so grateful that tears leaked from his large eyes. 20 ships, more than we dared hope for. The Krovik will be surprised to face determined resistance. If only he knew, Sujin thought. The Krovik were indeed going to be surprised, but not in the way the Villani expected. As the alien delegation prepared to leave, they transferred promised technology to human databases. The medical knowledge alone would save millions of human lives. But more importantly, the humans now had detailed information about Krovik weapons, shields, and tactics. Captain Daeho watched the flower-like alien ship depart from the observation deck. Beside him, Haiwan was already coordinating with military bases around the solar system. "The Second Fleet is moving to battle positions," she reported. "General Taemin says the Marines are excited about testing their new weapons." Daeho nodded. "Signal Deep Space Command. Tell them to begin Phase 1 deployment." As the alien ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying news of their successful alliance back to the Villani Confederation, human war machines began moving, in the darkness between stars. The Villani thought they had gained helpful but limited allies. The Krovik Empire was about to learn what happened when someone threatened Earth's interests. But first, humanity would let their enemies make the mistake of underestimating the species from the deathworld called Earth.